has one objective. We've got the takeoff right, we've got the journey, the trajectory, entry into the moon's orbit right. What we need to get right this time around is perfect the landing. And if we do that, then we become the fourth nation after the likes of China, USA and Russia who can claim this kind of dominance in the space race, but more importantly, the most cost-effective and reliable. That's what we'd be, because we get it right faster than anybody else. So that's the big date that we have with the moon, the countdown beginning for the launch of India's much-awaited space mission Chandrayaan 3. This historic launch will take place on Friday, 2:35 p.m. from Sriharikota, and the Bahubali rocket LVM-3 will launch Chandrayaan 3 into the moon. Chandrayaan 3 is also, like I said, a follow-up to mission Chandrayaan 2, and the main objective of Chandrayaan 3 is to land safely on the surface, to demonstrate rover operations and perform scientific experiments on site. The moon landing is expected to be on the 23rd or the 24th of August. The launch of the Chandrayaan 3 is a significant milestone in India's space program. The mission will help India to learn more about the moon and its history, and also help India develop further technologies for future lunar and intergalactical missions or space missions, interplanetary missions. With the Chandrayaan 3, India seeks to become the fourth nation, like I said, after Russia, US and China, to achieve a successful soft landing on the moon. So let's try and understand a little more about this moon mission, ladies and gentlemen. Why is it so special? Now, first up, the launch will be from the Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota. Now, if you look at it, the SDSC Shah in Sriharikota, the space station, the components, propulsion module, lander module, and of course the rover. These will be the components of Chandrayaan 3. And it's the GSLV launch vehicle, GSLV Mk3, which will be the launch vehicle for the same. The module is mass itself is about 3,900 kilograms, so roughly about 4 tons. And if you look at it, the propulsion module is 2,148 kg. The lander module itself, if you look at it, is at about 1,752 kilograms. The landing site will be the south polar region of the moon's surface. That's where the landing will be attempted. The duration is 14 Earth days. So 14 Earth days is equal to 1 lunar day. So those who follow the Hindu calendar will understand this too. The significance: demonstrate safe and soft landing on the lunar surface, demonstrate that rover roving on the moon, and conduct in situ experiments. That means on-site experiments. Now let's try and tell you something more about this lander, Vikram. What will it do? What was it supposed to do the last time around? Significant improvements have been made. It's a spectral, it will investigate spectral and polarimetric measurements. That's what it will do. It will also help in investigating further in terms of the moon surface, measure near the surface plasma density, try and get some samples. It is called Ramba, or radical anatomy of the moon. Bound hypersensitive ionosphere and atmosphere will measure the near surface plasma density and study the gas and plasma environment. The Chandra's surface thermophysical experiment, or CHAST, will measure thermal properties and surface temperature. ILSA is going to be used to measure the seismicity around the landing site itself. Laser retroflector is part of the rover vehicle. It's an array that now this is a passive experiment to understand the dynamics of the moon. So all of this will have to be conducted remotely, taking the time lag into question. The commands will have to be programmed, and of course the monitoring. Because of the lapse, the distance itself, there will be a delay of at least 20 seconds from what's actually happened until the data comes in. Now let's tell you what are the key features of this rover, that is Pragyan, the Pragyan rover. Alpha particle X-ray. Now it will also that's what it will do. It will look for elements in the lunar soil. That's the spectrometer. This will look for elements in the lunar soil. The laser-induced breakdown spectroscope. Now that will assess the chemical and elemental composition of the lunar surface. Let's now also look at, so that's the rover vehicle. Once upon landing, it breaks away from the main shuttle itself and then lands on the moon's surface. This is not going to come back. let's try and tell you what's going to send it there. That's the Bahubali LVM-3. This is a rocket that will send the Indian mission into the moon. The LVM-3 is a heavy lift launch vehicle, which is the most powerful rocket that ISRO has ever made, ever developed. The LVM-3 is a 3-stage rocket. It carries a large payload into space. That's what it can do. It's a heavyweight launch vehicle. So that's why nearly 4 tons of mass is going to go into stage. 2 solid fuel boosters provide initial thrust. Liquid fuel core stage provides the sustained thrust to propel the rocket into orbit. And the rocket is powered by 2 solid strap-on motors, the S-200, 1 high-thrust cryogenic upper stage, the C-25, and 1 liquid core stage, that is the L-110. Propellant loading of 28 tons, lift-off mass of 640 tons, and it carries a payload of up to 4 tons. So you saw the overall weight was roughly about 3,900 odd tons. So just under that actual ideal weight that this rocket can actually. So this is the details that we have. Let's try and also now understand a little more about how this LVM-3 works. The rocket operates using a staged combustion cycle, employs liquid-fueled engines for its core and strap-on boosters. The core stage of the rocket is powered by 2 Vikas engines, and each Vikas engine generates an impulsive and impressive thrust of 720 kilo. And 2 solid propellant boosters provide an additional thrust during the initial phase of the launch. The upper stage of the LVM-3 utilizes the C-20 engine, and this engine is an indigenously developed cryogenic engine which provides the necessary thrust to reach the desired orbit. Now the vehicle then takes off with simultaneous ignition of the 2 boosters, and following which the core stage L10 is ignited at about 113 seconds into flight, and you'll be able to see all of this from 2:35 p.m. onwards if you continue to track the entire launch and the vehicle till its journey into the moon. Both the S-200 boosters burn for about 134 seconds, then they break away, and then the separation occurs at 137 seconds. And when you hear and follow the launch at 137 seconds, separation will be announced. The payload fairing containing the satellite then separates at an altitude of 115 kilometers above Earth. The payload then separates at 217 seconds post-launch. That's the next payload separation. And thereafter, it then uses the Earth's momentum itself to swing itself and get into the gravitational space of the moon so that it doesn't drift away elsewhere into space. So this is the level of science that is involved, mathematics and calculation that's involved, and you've got to get it right to the last dot, ladies and gentlemen. No margin for error here. That's how important this mission is, and that's how precise you've got to get it right. Nambi Narayanan ji, space scientist with us, aerospace scientist, very, very renowned. Always a pleasure to speak with him. Namaste, Nambi Narayanan ji, Jai Hind, and thank you for speaking with us. We are on the eve of a historical journey into space for Bharat. Your thoughts? Do you think this time we'll get it right, especially the landing?
Yeah, I hope that it will be a grand success. Because, we have now modified certain things which we learned from the failures of Chandrayaan 2. And so I hope it will be a successful one.
How critical, Nambi Narayanan ji, is it, do you think it is for India to establish its credentials as far as space tech is concerned? Do you think we will be able to, absorb any setback if things perchance don't go right?
I personally believe, this is my personal opinion, I personally believe we have no pressure. This is actually, even today, if I really look at it, I am only happy that the entire nation is with us.
Yes.
In anticipation of a successful launch. So that way I am happy. But otherwise, as far as today's launch is concerned, it is a normal GSLV launch.
Yes.
But if at all, if there is an anxiety, that should come during the soft landing, which will take place August 23rd or 24th. So that time probably we could be under tension, but we will not be under any pressure.
Where do you see India today in the space race? How competitive are we compared to some of the other nations? There are, entities like NASA now. We're entering into a strategic partnership with them. How significant is that?
No, actually, we are not to be compared with anyone. For various reasons.
Right.
For example, today I can say that we are the fourth nation, namely after the China, Russia, and USA. Once we become successful in this mission, we will be the fourth nation. But it doesn't. You see, the whole thing is how far you are on your own. That is what matters as far as we are concerned. That is what is going to bring you the glory as well as investment opportunities. It is good to have collaboration. For example, they are talking about a collaborative launch with Japan next time.
Yes.
And maybe we may have a collaborative launch with NASA.
NASA, yes. Artemis.
But I feel that everything we learn and on our own, what we do, it matters. What is on our own matters a lot.
But do you think there's far more effort and focus towards research, design, development vis-a-vis space technology and space foray is concerned in the recent years under Prime Minister Modi?
I think so. You see, if you are meaning the private participation, yes, we have suddenly created an interest in the minds of the industries. But I think this needs little more focusing. When I talk to some of the industries, see, for example, they are talking about producing PSLV or that kind of or Vikas engine. But I personally expect them to do something on their own, some innovative idea. For example, somebody can come back and then say that here is a two-stage vehicle or a three-stage vehicle which will carry so much of payload. Or supposing if somebody can come out and then say that we are interested in developing LOX methane engine, something like that. That makes sense because you have the facilities available.
Right.
And if somebody can take care of it, ISRO is willing to help them.
Right.
So, but that needs a little bit awareness as well as some kind of a focusing. I hope that's being done. I'm not aware of it, but that is required.
But Nambi Narayananji, the future of space or space tech or foray into the realm of space, if you're even looking at interplanetary and beyond, this realm has to be where we can produce rockets, engines, spaceships that can last a lifetime, or they can generate their own power. So we have to look at a nuclear source or something which can propel itself on its own. Are we anywhere close to that kind of technology?
I don't think that we are anywhere nearer to the goal you are talking about. What we are right now doing is our self-reliance on satellites which are weighing approximately 4 tons. We are able to reach to geosynchronous orbit. That is our GSLV. And we are talking about various projects including the Chandrayaan and Mangalyaan and then Aditya, etc., etc. But you see, all these things needs money.
Yeah.
It doesn't come free. Even today there are a sect of people who believe that space is a white elephant, etc. But I am not getting into that controversy. But as far as I am concerned, yes, we need to plan. But I am of the opinion that it is not ISRO alone can do this job. I am talking about internationally. If you really look at it, even America couldn't do it on its own. So it needs some kind of understanding. For example, I used to tell in very many forums that NASA for America and ESA for Europeans, and we should have an ESA for India,
ESA
for the Asian countries.
Asian region.
So eventually, it will be the collaboration of ESA, NASA, and ESA. They will do the advanced technologies relating to space and interplanetary travel, and that kind of a thing. This is only a sketchy idea, but one thing is very clear, that no one nation can afford to do this job alone financially. It will be difficult. Also, we depend on each other.
Correct.
See, for example, tracking, navigation, and then communication. So many things. So we need. So this will become a compulsory thing, which I hope will come through.
But what is the one significant aspect, one big box that you think we will as a nation tick, or for you personally also will be ticked, if this mission is a success, if Chandrayaan 3 is a success?
No, it's a simple question. It proves your ability to reach moon in a specified manner, in a specified style. And your technical superiority is being established. So, the outcome of that would mean other countries who are sitting like a cat on the wall will jump in your side to invest money on future missions.
Fair point.
Of course, there you have to define. Unless you have some returns, no industry will be interested in joining you, or for that matter spending money or investing money in the space related matters.
Correct.
But I hope the success of this mission, as I told you in the beginning, is a game changer. It will bring in people closer to you in terms of investment, higher job opportunities, and more projects, etc.
For a mission director, sir, what is the most nerve-wracking moment? The takeoff, the journey, or the landing? Which is most harrowing?
Well, as you know very well, this is a beaten track. We have gone through that mill, and the only place we failed was the soft launch.
Soft landing.
So his tension must be there during the soft landing only. But in space, everything is sort of anxiety. It will be there, at least for those who are associated with that. Right from takeoff till you land, it will be there. But I feel more tensionful event will be the soft landing.
Soft landing is sometime around the 23rd of August, Nambi Narayananji. That's also my birthday. Perfect birthday gift for me and for the country if we get the soft landing right.
That will be great. So I just want to wish you all the time many happy returns of the day.
You do it on that day, sir. When we have the perfect landing, on that day we should connect again and we'll speak again, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you. Always a pleasure speaking with you. Namaste, sir. Thank you. Shifting focus, ladies and gentlemen, to the national capital, where it's not being raining incessantly, but because of the Hatnikund barrage being opened, the Yamuna is at levels never seen before in more than half a decade in this part of the world and in this part of the country. Waterlogging, inundated roads, traffic jams, these scenes were witnessed across several places in the national capital, especially those which are on the banks of the Yamuna river. Surging water levels in the Yamuna breached the 45-year-old landmark to touch record levels, and this resulted in flooding in several places like Mayur Vihar Phase 1, Geeta Colony, Ring Road, Kashmiri Gate and other areas. The Aam Aadmi Party, the ruling disposition in Delhi, at the receiving end. There were reports of power and water cuts in several areas. 3 or 4 water treatment plants have been shut down because of the inundation. That means Delhi could have a problem of drinking water in the next few days. Those living in low-lying areas have had to be moved to safer places. Nearly 40,000 plus people have been moved. And politics continuing to ensue. Arvind Kejriwal blaming the Haryana government for the rise in water levels, while the BJP slamming the AAP government over crumbling infrastructure. News 18 travelled to all of these flooded areas. Have a look at this ground report.
It feels like we're standing in the middle of a river, and in fact this is the backside of Lal Killa, and till where you can see there's only water, and in fact from the point I can see the road, that bit of road is the flyover actually, and that is the elevated road. And in fact, once that elevated road ends, then yet again you see the water all around this very area. In fact, early in the morning when we arrived to this very spot, there was no water. In fact, we very comfortably crossed this entire stretch with the help of the car, but now this entire area has been submerged under heavy water.
Now you can see that after a very long time there is this particular tractor which is now approaching towards this particular place, although we have been given to understand that there are surrounded places which have not been allowed by the Delhi police. There is barricading on two sides of the road, so it has become inaccessible. There is water all around. अरे भैया रुक जाइए, इतना मेहनत करके आप आ रहे हैं, हिम्मत कैसे हो रही है इतना आने की? डर नहीं लगा?
अब 1000 आदमी बच जाए तो बढ़िया है, हम तो अपने लिए।
तो आप कहाँ से आ रहे हैं? पीछे से?
हम आ रहे हैं वहाँ से हनुमान मंदिर से।
हनुमान मंदिर जी। और जा कहाँ को रहे हैं आप?
अब जा रहे हैं चंद्रवाल को।
अच्छा।
कट्टे भरेंगे मट्टी में, उनको लाके पानी का रोक करेंगे।
The situation in the national capital is deteriorating by every passing minute. Currently, I am reporting from the Delhi Secretariat where the entire Delhi government functions from. And this is the situation that has developed over here. There is massive flooding that has happened out here in this entire area. In fact, this bus that you see in your frames right now just got stuck over here just a few minutes ago as the bus was trying to cross this area and was trying to make its way towards from the ITO towards the Delhi Secretariat, and it got stuck in this water. Now, if you could see in the visuals over here, the water level is at least 2 feet, probably more than 2.5 feet that has gathered over here.
दिल्ली में जो स्थिति है अब वो बेहद ख़राब होती जा रही है। जो मुख्य सड़कें हैं यमुना के आसपास वो बंद हो रही हैं, उसकी बानगी हम आपको लगातार दिखा रहे हैं। ये रिंग रोड जहां हम मौजूद हैं, हमारी तस्वीर देखकर आप समझ सकते हैं यहाँ जहां हम खड़े हैं पीठ तक पानी है, और जो अगर हम बीच में जाएंगे तो ये पानी का स्तर और बढ़ जाएगा। और मैं आपको ये तस्वीर लगातार दिखा रहा हूँ कि किस तरीके से जो पानी यहाँ पर आ रहा है। विपिन पुजारी जी ज़रा थोड़ा आगे आइए और यहाँ दिखाने की कोशिश कीजिए कि यहाँ पर क्या स्थिति हो गई है। जो पानी का स्तर है, देखिए जो रिंग रोड पर ये जो लेन है, दरअसल ये लेन जब आप ITO से आते हैं और आप जाते हैं पुरानी दिल्ली रेलवे स्टेशन की तरफ, यहाँ पर स्थिति देख लीजिए क्या स्थिति बनी हुई है।
This is SP Mukherjee Marg. This is one of the important road whenever we talk about Chandni Chowk area and Red Fort area. And I'm trying to show you the visuals. I'll ask VJ Pramod Saklani to first of all show you those visuals where in fact these children are playing, and not just these children are playing, but there are some individuals who are trying to swim and are enjoying the particular condition. There was a drive by MCD saying that all those who are living in O zone and all those who are living in river belt should leave the particular place because, as per the instructions and as per the orders by several courts, you're not allowed to, make permanent structures in those areas. However, in current condition, in fact, we have several areas where we have not just temporary structures, but permanent structures.
Short break, and when we get back, it is Prime Minister Narendra Modi's touchdown in Paris. The power play begins. Business bonhomie, old partners, new course being charted. We will try and decode the significance, the importance, the timing of this visit. Stay right with us. When we are back, a special guest also joins us from France, ahead of Bastille Day.
Ukraine question could also come up for discussions during the Prime Minister visit and his meetings with Mr. Macron and the Prime Minister of France. That is something that, the world is closely looking at. Even in the US, when the PM went, this question had come up. Also, I think the point that the Prime Minister has made that he's looking at holding wide-ranging discussions, that he said this is a long-standing and a time-tested partnership. So, this is based on trust. This is something that, both the countries have worked on very, very closely. And now, if these two defense deals are actually announced during the visit, I think it takes it to the next level. If you're getting more Rafales and more Scorpion submarines from France, and especially through the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative, where France commits to co-production and co-design in India, I think that could be a major, major takeaway from this visit and from the conversations that Prime Minister Modi will have with the president. I think also the bipartisanship kind of the welcome which Prime Minister Modi will get in France. The interactions with the French leadership includes with the Prime Minister of France, the presidents of the Senate, the president of the National Assembly. This is similar to his US visit when both the sides, the Republicans and the Democrats, had welcomed the PM and their leaders had met the Prime Minister. I think the similar thing we'll see in France. So also Prime Minister Narendra Modi, when he goes abroad, when he goes to US or when he goes to France, he's not just appealing to the ruling party in France. He's also meeting the political leaders from all sides. So this is something also which is unique about the Prime Minister's abroad visit, and we'll see that playing out in France as well. So majorly the visit, I think, is focused on providing, a new impetus to the very, very time-tested and strong strategic partnership that India and France have. And we'll see this flowing during the visit through the deals and other agreements which are expected to be announced during the PM's France visit.
All right, Aman, now crossing over to Abhishek. Abhishek, this year's Bastille Day parade is very special for India, as well as the Indian contingent will also be part of the parade. Could you tell us more about it and about the Bastille Day parade too?
Of course, it will be a rare occasion when Indian tri-contingent will be part of that Bastille Day parade. It will be about 269 personnel from our armed forces will be parading with their French counterparts on that Bastille Day parade. There will be Rafales that will be flying with the contingent. We have also just had a visual where Indian ships have been berthed at birth dress, so they'll be having a participation in that National Day parade. So clearly, that these this small contingent that India will be having, that reflects the kind of partnership that France generally wants to have with India. This is the strategic partnership that the two countries have had, and the way India is looking forward to having a more robust relationship with France in the next 25 years. And this is something that Prime Minister Modi is also going to discuss, that how India-France strategic partnership should fare in the next 25 years is something that is very much important because when we talk about strategic partnership and the kind of technology and the kind of area of collaboration, it has to be a very long vision approach, because take example of this civil nuclear deal that France and India had in 2008. Since then, France has been supplying India with a lot of design, operational elements, technology, boiler, fuel. France happens to be one of the largest supplier of enriched uranium to India, and the overall capacity that India has, about 7,000 megawatt that India is currently having. The nuclear capacity, India needs a lot of enriched uranium, and in the wake of sanctions that India has invited from a lot of countries, it was very difficult to have those fuel supply continuously going on, because once the nuclear reactors are shut, to regenerate or to restart them becomes another challenge and a long project.
Well, absolutely, Abhishek. Abhishek and Aman, please stay with us. Now, my colleague Sanjay Suri gets us more details on Prime Minister Modi's France visit. Take a look.
Prime Minister Modi's two-day visit to Paris is both ceremonial and substantive. Ceremonially, he will be the chief guest at the Bastille Day parade, and that parade will include an impressive contingent, no doubt, from the Indian military. But more substantively, we are expecting a number of defense agreements to be announced, and these could include more Rafale jets and even agreements towards production of submarines, and all certainly with a carefully worked in made in India element.
This is where the French companies, whether it's Naval or Dassault or Safran, would have to really weigh into the credibility of the partners, be it public or private, more so for private. So I think this is where they have been more careful recently, with better partnerships with companies like Mahindra or Tata.
Following on from the Prime Minister's rather productive visit to the US, the French are coming in with some competitive offers, and whatever the technological or financial agreements, there are clear political advantages to doing business deals and defense deals, particularly with the French. They are the only major power that did not hit India with sanctions after India's nuclear tests in 74 and again 98.
Crossing over to my colleague Aman Sharma. Aman, so how is the mood in France ahead of Prime Minister Modi's visit?
Well, as Sanjay Suri, I think, was telling us that the mood is upbeat, especially amongst the Indian diaspora. And, whenever the PM travels abroad, we have seen that the Indian diaspora event is something that is very, very, keenly awaited by the diaspora there for Indians to get a chance to see and hear the Prime Minister. And, as some of the diaspora was telling Sanjay there that, they feel proud to be Indians, abroad. And, Mr. Modi has given that, kind of a enhanced identity, a moment of prestige to them.
Welcome back. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has begun his two-day visit to France. Prime Minister Modi will be the guest of honor at the French National Day Parade, also known as Bastille Day Parade. On the arrival, Prime Minister received a grand welcome. He also interacted with the Indian diaspora who are waiting to greet him at the hotel. PM Modi met President of the Senate, Gerard Larcher, and will shortly be meeting Prime Minister Elizabeth Borne later this evening here in India. And early evening in France, the PM will interact with the Indian diaspora and meet President Macron. A host of deals are also set to be signed during this meeting. So what's on the Prime Minister's agenda? Number one, defense cooperation, maritime security, scientific advancements, energy security, cultural exchange, economic cooperation, and of course, trying to very strongly advocate for a permanent seat for India in the UN Security Council. A host of deals are expected to be signed during the PM's visit to France. 26 Rafale Marine for the Indian Navy, 3 additional Scorpene submarines, co-developing the combat jet engines, decision on Jaitapur nuclear power plant project, cooperation on the next-gen helicopter engines. The PM has also spoken on various issues in an interview to a French magazine, where he has highlighted that India deserves its place in a permanent seat in the UN Security Council. How can the world's largest democracy not get a seat there? Meanwhile, joining us right now en route, but after a busy training session, Squadron Leader Sindhu Reddy, who will command the IAF contingent, the Tri-Services contingent is there, and she's going to be leading the Air Force contingent. Thank you very much, Squadron Leader Sindhu Reddy. Thank you for speaking with us. Let me first ask you, Republic Day to Bastille Day, how is it similar? How is it different?
Okay, so it's not very different actually. The feeling has been the same. But like in Republic Day, I had the chance to represent my service on our Kartavya Path and on our National Day. Tomorrow on Bastille Day, I will have the privilege to represent our country in front of our Prime Minister, who will be witnessing the show on the National Day of France. And the feeling, however, has been the same in terms that the French people are equally enthusiastic about their National Day. And we've been getting a tremendous response from the French troops as well about our parade. So we are excited about the same in a similar way.
This is a tri-service exercise, but is there a sense of competition? Who's better than who?
The competition is just on our Republic Day. However, over here in Bastille Day, since we are representing our country and we are marching as one, in terms that the tri-service contingent is marching as one and is leading the parade on the Bastille Day. It's not a competition, but it's equally challenging, and it is equally, it's a pride moment for all of us.
What about with the French? They are having their National Day. Their services is also on the parade. They are on display. I'm sure it's healthy, but still.
Yeah, so basically, we being, our parade being top-notch, we practiced a lot. We practiced for about 3 weeks before coming here. So the day one that we started our practice with the French, we had them astonished. So they were bewildered and they said, your parade is just wow. So they have been trying to catch up with us since day one, and their parade is equally good. But yes, they've all been very astonished by the way we march and the amount of energy and enthusiasm we have during our march past.
So that must have felt good. थोड़ा collar up हो गया होगा ना?
Yes. It was like a what do you call it? It was equally, it's a pride moment, and it was like an honor to all of us. Just after the first practice that we received, they said your marching is perfect. So, yeah.
That's nice. That's fantastic. But tell me, Squadron Leader Sindhu, was there anybody who was surprised to see a woman leading the contingent?
French have the concept of the contingent commander being the most decorated, and they are all quite senior. So we as in the tri-services, all the three of us being amongst the ranks of not really that senior, but yeah, we are all the rank of captain. I'm small leader, and army, he's a captain. So they were really surprised that how such young people are leading the parade. They were really thrilled about that. And they even today they approach us and they keep asking tips about how they can improve their parade and how they can improve the command. So yeah, that way it's an honor for us, and it's we've felt really wonderful talking to people about this.
Wow, that's phenomenal. I feel so proud sitting here. I can only imagine how proud you must be feeling. But what happens next? Any butterflies in the stomach ahead of the big day?
Not really, because we've been practicing for almost a week here, and the practice has been quite grueling, and we've practiced quite a number of times. But yes, we have the enthusiasm because it's all new for us, and this experience is entirely new. The format of the parade is new, the people are new, and the layout is new. So we're all excited to see how it unfolds, and very excited to see the reaction of the people on the D-Day.
You've become quite a celebrity back home. Videos are going viral. Are people queuing up there also to take selfies with you and your colleagues?
So yes, basically all three contingent commanders have been quite a celebrity over here in during the practice as well. In fact, our liaison officer who's with us, he keeps taunting us. He says, you should charge €1 per selfie every time you take a photo, and you'll be a millionaire already.
Well, you've already gotten into the hearts of millions here. Continue to do the country proud. All the best to you at the Bastille Day Parade and beyond. Look forward to speaking with you very, very soon again. Squadron Leader Sindhu Reddy, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We should try and get Sanjay Suri live in just a bit. And also former diplomat Ambassador Rakesh Sood should be joining us. But first, let's go across to François Gauthier, French journalist who is with us. Namaste. Thank you very much. So good to speak with you.
Same here.
Let me ask you, sir, how significant is this visit? And why is it important for France? Ambassador Rakesh Sood should also be joining us. But yes, Mr. Gauthier.
You see, there's an economic clout that India is becoming to way economically. That is the important thing. That Mr. Modi comes, he's going to buy 26 Rafale and six submarines, and eventually there'll be more. In shopping bag, he's going to bring back more things. So I think everything is in terms of economy now. The Chinese are feared and they are respected because they weigh a lot economically, much more than India actually. But India is coming up. It's a good thing. I've been defending India in France for a long time. I've been telling the French for a long time that look more towards India than China, because India is a democracy. It's a Western-loving people. There is a judicial system in place that works. So you should invest more into India than France, than China. So it's happening, and I'm happy about it. There are many buts, though. There are many buts, and so we can eventually go about the buts. But I think it's a great thing that Mr. Modi is the guest of honor of. Tomorrow is our national day. What is our Independence Day, 14th of July. It's a very important day because the French Revolution happened on the 14th of July, where the jail, where the king used to put all the political prisoners, the Bastille was taken over by the people of France. So it's a very symbolic thing that Mr. Modi has been invited. I have a few reservations because...
Why don't you share them? Go ahead. Then we'll get Ambassador Rakesh Sood to respond to that. Yes, go ahead, please.
Sure.
So what are the buts? Mr. Gauthier, please go ahead. What are the buts? What are the reservations?
Are you asking me?
Yes, I am. Then I'll bring in Ambassador Rakesh Sood so he can respond to your reservations. Ji.
Sure.
Go ahead, please, Mr. Gauthier. You please express your reservations first.
All right.
Then I'll bring in Ambassador Sood. Ji.
See, for instance, for the UN, France has been saying for a long time that we support India's being a candidate for the UN Security Council, but knowing that China will oppose it every time. So it doesn't cost France anything. In terms of nuclear energy, the French have been saying for a long time we'll have a cooperation with India on nuclear energy, but it's not happened. So far, France has not sold or collaborated on a nuclear plant in India. So this is one of the, points that I feel is important. The support, the French media keeps saying, or the Indian media rather keeps saying that France never opposed India's nuclear explosion, in 98. It was the only country in the world, but France had just done a nuclear explosion of its own in the Pacific, so it could not really oppose India when it itself had just done a nuclear explosion that was opposed by most of the world, and that was, criticized a lot. I think, the fact that Mr. Macron also went to China, he was supposed to come to India in January. We were expecting him to come here, and instead he flew to China with a huge business delegation. So yes, India is coming up, but it's a small beginning, and we should not get over enthusiastic because there's a lot of hostility toward Mr. Modi in France. I've been trying to write a biography in French on Mr. Modi for a long time. I find that the media, like Le Monde, or even the rightist paper Le Figaro, for which I worked for a long time, or France 24, which is the main news channel in France, have a lot of hostility towards Mr. Modi. In fact, there are quite a few French MPs who are boycotting tomorrow's national celebration and said, we will not attend because Mr. Modi, someone who's got a very bad human rights record.
So the mood and the narrative has been set in a particular manner in France, but France has also seen that those people who have backed such narratives and who have set such narratives, and when they backed certain other entities, what they unleashed on the streets of France across the length and breadth of the nation not so long ago. But Ambassador Rakesh Sood, what would you think should be India's biggest takeaway? Cooperation with the Jaitapur plant beyond just the UN Security Council support? You think that's the biggest aspect if we are buying 26 Rafale from
them? Not at all. I think what is important is to keep it in perspective. And while Francois Gautier's reservations are very valid, I still think that the fact that it is 25 years since India and France established their strategic partnership. In fact, France was the first country with which we established our strategic partnership. Today, we have more than 30. And this happened in 1998. So we are celebrating 25 years of that. And since that time, it has grown. It was, in the beginning, it was limited to nuclear, space, and defense. Since then, it has embraced many other sectors. It has embraced counterterrorism. It has embraced Indo-Pacific. It has embraced smart city development, urban development. It has embraced climate change, International Solar Alliance. So there are a huge number of areas. Today we have more than 40 bilateral dialogues with France.
Right.
So it is no longer a relationship that is just limited to defense. Secondly, I think it is a fact that France has the second largest exclusive economic zone in the Indian Ocean. It has its exclusive economic zone because of Reunion and Mayotte Islands is as much as 2.7 million square kilometers.
Right.
Therefore, it has its own overseas territories where it has French citizens living, and therefore it has permanent military presence. So therefore, automatically, there is a synergy in terms of what we feel about the security of the Indo-Pacific region.
Right.
And that is why we had a vision statement a few years ago on the Indo-Pacific from a high-level visit. Now, this time around, I think we are going to see in addition to the areas that I've already mentioned,
right,
and Jaitapur and nuclear is one of them, certainly. Although I don't know how the two leaders are going to give a boost to that, because it has been lagging, unfortunately, for something like more than 15 years.
Right.
Because of liability laws and our inability to address French concerns regarding our liability laws. However, if the two leaders can push that, I think it would be a great step forward. But I think we will probably see major developments in the field of defense, space, people to people, and possibly
right,
in terms of trade.
In terms of trade. I'm just going to pause for a bit with the guests. Gentlemen, please stay with me. I'm quickly going across to my good friend and colleague Sanjay Suri, who's traversed all the way from London into Paris, and you seem to be at a place of significance for today. Is this where the diaspora meet is going to happen, Sanjay?
Yes, right behind, and you can see these people filing in, and they've started queuing up about 3 hours in advance. Nobody's taking chances. This is a little bit on the outskirts of Paris, and so people have been making their way on metro and taxis and other ways. And of course, this early arrivals are some index of the enthusiasm for Mr. Modi among the Indian diaspora here in France.
I'm going to keep an eye out behind you, and the moment there are a few people of the Indian diaspora passing by, I'm going to request you to turn around and call them back. I know you have limited mobility given the fact that you are on a camera that you're operating on your own. But how has the response been? François Gauthier is with us, and he says there's been quite a bit of hostility that the Prime Minister is seeing among the polity and also among the press in France. Is that true? How's the response been to that interview that he's given to a French newspaper?
Well, there certainly is a very strong left-wing element in the media in France, and that necessarily is hostile to Mr. Modi. There's absolutely no doubt about that. There is also a question here about communication. There hasn't been a great deal of communication between the Indian government and between the French people. The exchanges we've had have been at the government level between the government and also leading companies such as Dassault that are set to supply, are expected to supply the new set of Rafales to India. That hasn't been signed and completed yet. It may be through this visit, but the concentration is at that level, and it hasn't moved beyond that, not even into trade and investment, which is the sort of bread and butter of relationships that are economic to any extent at all. The extent of trade between India and France is less than half of that between India and Germany, and France ranks 5th in India's trade with even European countries. It's a very small level of trade. The concentration seems to be on that one word, Rafale. The Rafale does it, and to that extent, certainly it's a great aircraft. The Indian forces want it, they need it, and if they can have it, good for them. Of course, let's not fool ourselves that this is some great Indo-French equation being built. The French are doing it for money. They are in it for the business, and they are very hard bargainers. And just look at the Jaitapur plant issue. There is no political impediment. They have no problem with supplying nuclear energy. So there's no ideological or political obstacle in the way, but they're hard bargainers, and so it'll be with the aircraft and the submarines.
So they'll bargain hard. François Gauthier, how is India going to see through this? Is there any way to correct this hostility, this perception? Is cultural exchange, people to people connect, is it going to help? Yes, Mr. Gauthier.
Yeah, I'm a Frenchman, so I should say, everything is rosy, everything is beautiful. But I love India. I've been defending India for a long time. What India needs is a geopolitical support against China and against Pakistan. Now, this is not happening. These are just words that are happening. And then I see that Indian diaspora, I don't know what Indian diaspora you're talking about, because there is no Indian diaspora in France except Tamil French, Tamil from Pondicherry, who have taken the French nationality in 1956 or 57, and were chosen to live in France. So there's a very little Indian diaspora in France, to my knowledge. I don't know. To my knowledge, I've been, in India for a long time and shuttling between France and India. So I know that compared to the UK, or compared to the US, or even Canada, where there's a huge Indian diaspora, France has a very tiny Indian diaspora. Nothing to boast about. Now, I want to be optimistic, but in terms of real stuff that is happening, I don't see much. India needs support in Kashmir, for instance. France recognizes Tibet as part of China. Why can't it recognize Kashmir as part of India? It wouldn't cost France so much, but they haven't done it. In terms of maritime problems, the problem that India is facing and that the whole of Southeast Asia is facing in the seas between the China Sea and the Indian Ocean, there should be a French collaboration on the ground, on the seas between the Indian Navy and the French Navy that confront the Chinese. The problem is that nobody wants to confront the Chinese because the big business is still with China. So France is not going to confront China. France is investing 10 times more in China than it does in India. I know there are progressive. Again, I want to be optimistic, but I know also the statistic that it was true 20 years ago, it's still true today. France is investing 10 times more in China than in India. And all companies do well in China. The French Hermes, all the luxury items, which they don't in India. Chanel opened an office in India 6-7 years ago. They closed it down after 3 years because it didn't work. So I want to see real meaningful stuff happening within France. And I would be the happiest because I'm French, I live in India. I want the French to look at India as a ground of economical and geopolitical investment.
Have things changed in the last 5, 6 years, 7 years, not just in France, but also in India? Ambassador Rakesh Sood, what is it that India needs to do to change the narrative? Or does India really need to work very hard with France? Or on France?
I think, as I mentioned to you in my opening remarks, at a government-to-government level, which is the strategic level, there is already a very strong positive movement that has existed for the last 25 years. Now, government-to-government relations are focused on the strategic areas of nuclear, defense, space, counterterrorism, and areas like that. The attempt has been to translate that into a greater amount of people-to-people connect. To an extent, that is already happening. About 10 years ago, we used to get about 2,500 students going to France every year for higher education. There were language issues, obviously. Indian students would prefer to go to US, Canada, UK, Australia. Now, France has a number of bilingual institutions. Many of their management institutions and engineering institutions now conduct courses in English. We had set up a target of 10,000 Indian students every year. That target was supposed to have been met in 2025. It's already been achieved. Now, there are 10,000 Indian students going every year to France for higher education.
But there are 100,000 Chinese students in France, more than 100,000 Chinese students in France at the moment.
I agree. It is as much a foreign language, but for the Chinese, English is also a foreign language.
No,
for the Indians, English is not so much of a foreign language.
As difficult for a Chinese to learn French than for an Indian.
It is as difficult for the Chinese
students in France and only 10,000. I mean, this is an old story that I have talked with French ambassadors for a long time who said, yeah, we're making an effort, we're giving more scholarships to Indian students, but the result is that there is still, the Chinese have flooded France. That in every metro there are,
Francois,
Chinese,
listen to me.
The
Chinese provide scholarships. We don't provide scholarships. Please understand. And the French have not made it any easier because of their visa policy. Because in both in US and in UK, students who do higher education courses get 2 years to pay off their student loans. So therefore, there is a difference. Now we are seeing a movement because the French are also conducting dual language courses, which makes it easier for the Indians to come in. There are today 1,000 French companies that are already invested in India. 39 of the
How many
top
French companies
40,
are there in Indian company in France?
they
There
are
are very few.
They are
very
working
few.
in India.
Why
So there is no.
I
mean, let me finish, Francois.
Yeah, sure. Sorry.
I didn't interrupt you when you were joking. So I think that there is a certain amount of work that needs to be done. Yes, the German relationship, the India-Germany relationship is focused entirely on the economic and commercial aspect and not on the strategic areas like nuclear, defense, etc. But there is a reason for it. The German industry, the German economy is also structured differently because the German multinationals, when they travel, they carry the German MSMEs, the medium, small and micro enterprises with them. In France, that doesn't happen. We've seen that in the past. That is why Peugeot, when they came to India, failed to make a dent. So either they find a good joint venture partner, or they have to then fall back on getting their own supply chain systems operational in India. So the French have a different... So I don't think that the French relationship with India or the German relationship with India are comparable in that sense. Even Netherlands has more trade with India than France does. But that doesn't mean that the French relationship is less important than that India has with Netherlands. The French, the relationship that we have with France is far, far more critical
but one
than
question,
any other European relationship,
Yes.
except perhaps for the UK, and that is for the reasons of the diaspora.
Right. Ambassador Su, just Francois Gauthier, and then I have a question. Yes, Francois.
No, I mean, there is no substance. I mean, I would like to say that there is a great substance. There is no substance. The only thing is that India has got buying power now. Indigo has bought, I don't know, 500 Airbuses, and then Mr. Modi is coming to buy 26 Rafale. The Rafale is probably the most expensive fighter plane in the world, so it's going to be a huge bill, and the 3 submarines. So apart from that, I don't see any substance. I see a lot of hype, like this NRIs in Paris. But, I've been defending Mr. Modi for a long time, much before he became Prime Minister, and I have known him for a long time. But I find that now there is a kind of, throwing media hype, like when he goes to Karnataka and a million rose petals are thrown on him, and then the BJP loses badly in Karnataka. So France, yes, it's a good visit and it's a guest of honor. This is important, but it's way behind China. We're way behind China in terms of the French interest, economic interest, political interest. The French, Mr. Modi has been accused of human rights abuse, but actually India is a country where there's so much freedom. I mean, I've been defending Mr. Modi on that count. And again, I saw today in the France 24, which is the main news channel in France, it's both English, French, and Arabic. I saw, a whole report by a lady called, I think, Jacinthe Pinto. She's a Goan Indian, Goan Christian Indian. So negative, so saying that human rights are, and I mean, this is more important to my mind is that
that is something, Francois.
Let me finish, because this is important. This is more important than buying Airbuses or Scorpions, that France respects India and appreciates India rightfully. This is much more important than this is
Fair point made. Fair point made. Fair point made. I have to interrupt you because I have run out of time on the show. Francois Gauthier and Ambassador Rakesh Su, thank you so much. Winding up the right stand on that note, Zaka Jacob with Brastag. Good evening. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has begun his two-day visit to France. He will be the chief guest at the Bastille Day celebrations tomorrow, which is a rare honor for a visiting foreign head of government. On the table are also multi-million-dollar defense deals, including 26 Rafales, the Navy version for the Indian Navy, 3 Scorpene submarines also for the Indian Navy. There's also going to be cooperation on engine development for the advanced medium combat aircraft. And of course, when it is India-France, how can we not talk about nuclear cooperation? So a whole gamut of deals expected to be signed tomorrow when the formal end of his visit begins. But more than that, it is about India and France and their partnership in the context in which this visit is happening. It is happening at a time when Europe is going through a bit of an existential crisis because of the Russia-Ukraine war. France's position, for example, in this war is different from Britain's position, which is different from Germany's position. What can India offer as it wades past these choppy waters of uncertainty? It's been well over a year now since this war began. What is it that India can offer to Europe and to France at this time of uncertainty?